Hello and welcome to CTV News across Canada for Thursday, March 5th. We've got the top local stories from coast to coast, stories that affect you and the country. Thanks for joining us.
Krista Lockyer already has gas price fatigue.
Actually, it's funny because as soon as I was driving in, I was kind of like that, feeling like, really, it started already?
Indeed, it has. In the wake of the conflict between the United States, Israel, and Iran, prices rose overnight. By midday, the price of regular gas at stations in the London area hit as high as $1.44 a litre. Diesel climbed far higher. Bottom line, even compact car drivers are feeling the pinch.
I would say it's been like at least 25 cents a litre, which is a lot.
The uncertainty of the conflict is a stress on consumers, but it's also one for experts who are having a hard time predicting just how high prices might go. Throughout the course of this week, experts have weighed in with CTV News.
It's a very difficult situation. We haven't seen this since the 70s.
And there are so many potential scenarios in a war footing that could happen, which could move prices back and forth when it comes to crude oil and wholesale gasoline prices.
Roger McKnight, an Enpro gas analyst, has said that if the price of a barrel of oil rises to $80, the price at the pump will jump by 8 cents. If it hits $100, the price you pay will rise by 20 cents. That is an unsettling fact, whether you're a Londoner on a budget or not.
People don't have nearly as much money as they used to. Always filling up gas, depending on what price, could be a struggle for some people.
And with reasons for the price increase out of the control of Londoners, most have little choice but to pay up.
I mean, there's not really a lot that we can do, that's for sure. Just praying.
Praying that
things will change, that there will be changes in this world, things will settle down.
In London, Sean Irvine, CTV News.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. And
Councillor Shelley Carroll, the chair of Toronto's Police Services Board, struck a serious tone as she outlined the board's response to concerns of corruption.
Many members of the public are watching on this item. They should be.
The chair speaking well in a courthouse across the GTA. One of the accused, Brian DaCosta, was released to house arrest on $1.5 million bail. DaCosta is accused of taking information from Constable Timothy Barnhart, information used to find the home of a Toronto South Detention Centre manager and try to assassinate him. That's from a blockbuster news conference last month where York Regional Police said there were other shootings too, including by this man, Kajeen Doman, who's charged with firing on other addresses tied to a former tow truck kingpin. Other charges against more than 24 people include gun crimes and attempted insurance fraud, as well as accessing computer databases, a father and son charged there. It emerged Wednesday that one accused, Ryan Kribbe, claimed in social media posts to work for Brinks Security. No word from that company today. The chief starting an anti-corruption project to look at supervision and screening officers, how they access public databases and evidence, and substance abuse on the job, as well as a 1TPS project to motivate individual officers to combat corruption.
Oversight in organizational changes only go so far. If they aren't paired with a strong professional culture, we have to look at culture too.
Culture, perhaps the target in 12 Division where many officers worked. HQ has sent 4 new staff sergeants there. Ontario's Inspector General of Policing and the Law Enforcement Complaints Agency investigating. The board also creating an audit committee for regular updates on Project South and getting the city's Auditor General to review possible privacy breaches from the leaks, but stopping short of a judicial inquiry.
We don't think that this can wait. The board doesn't and the service doesn't.
Critics skeptical.
They're talking about police making changes within the police service. Well, the one thing we know is the police never make changes within the police service. They just go on and on and on the same old way.
Former Mayor John Sewell insists the police need personnel changes from outside the service. We heard some news today on another alleged police corruption case. That's in the case of Umar Zamir, the accountant who struck down Jeffrey Northrup under the City Hall parkade in 2021. And the trial in 2024, he was found not guilty, and the judge pointed out that 3 officers may have colluded. At the time, the chief described the OPP investigation into them as a review. Today, we heard that they are looking into whether criminal activities may have taken place. Reporting live from Toronto Police Headquarters, I'm John Woodward.
This winter brought more than just snow to the Maritimes. Each province worried about their electricity supply and if it could weather the next cold snap. Rolling blackouts were even threatened, an issue plaguing other parts of Canada too.
We have 13 islands in Canada of grids. They don't speak to each other. They often don't flow power to each other.
They're comparing it to the building of the Canadian Railway, an energy connection from coast to coast to coast, building transmission infrastructure and new electricity projects together.
Today, we're selling energy in the U.S. on the spot market. And it begs the question, why would we give the Americans or any nation an advantage over ourselves?
The idea stemmed from Ontario, rich in nuclear and hydropower. 8 provinces and 2 territories have signed the agreement. New Brunswick's energy minister calls it a natural fit.
We in Atlantic Canada have a problem of scale. A kilometer of transmission line costs the same whether you have 400,000 ratepayers or you have 4 million.
Quebec is notably absent from the deal. Leche said they'll sign when they're ready.
But we do believe we're in a much better place where Quebec supports the concept of the federal government and the provinces working together to reduce costs and maximize benefits for their ratepayers.
Back in the Maritimes, this policy analyst calls it a positive step.
We think that all the provinces and all the utilities across Atlantic Canada, not just in electricity either, really across the energy sector, should be working more together to figure out what we need and where we want to grow to set up the infrastructure to enable that growth.
Now work begins on a timeline and a price tag. Laura Brown, CTV News, Fredericton.
A baby named Colton and what happened to him, now the focus of a criminal trial. His mother, Bravi Booth, and her former boyfriend, Patrick O'Connor, have pleaded not guilty to second-degree murder in his death. It was October 2021 when emergency crews were called to a home in the Britannia neighborhood for a baby who wasn't breathing. A police officer testified O'Connor told him Booth had fallen asleep breastfeeding and Colton fell off the bed, hitting his head on the bed frame, then the floor. He said the baby appeared to be okay, so he told Booth to go upstairs. O'Connor said he then fell asleep holding Colton facing him, and when he woke up, the child was cold to the touch and not breathing. Colton died in hospital. During cross-examination, Booth's lawyer asked the officer about O'Connor's reaction. Your opinion was that those tears and that emotional reaction did not appear genuine to you, correct? Yes, he replied. O'Connor's lawyer pushing back, saying the officer didn't document those thoughts in his notes because it was not your impression at the time that his response was fake. The officer replied that while it was a mistake not to include, he still had that inkling.
The trial is expected to last 8 weeks and hear from a number of witnesses, including paramedics who responded to the call and rushed Colton to the hospital.
Court heard that starting in 2008, Stephen Lehman had regular sex with a 16-year-old girl. He was 20 years older than her. Over a 9-month period, they had intercourse about 40 times. He was arrested and charged in 2024. In December 2025, Lehman pleaded guilty to the sexual exploitation of a teen. During sentencing submissions in February, the Crown asked for 5 years behind bars, saying Lehman groomed and manipulated the teen and the degree of physical interference was high. The defense argued for 2 to 3 years, saying Lehman would not repeat the behavior and has faced serious professional ramifications. A well-known figure and contributor to the arts community, Lehman co-founded the Renaissance School of the Arts as well as KW Glee. Court heard he is no longer affiliated with those organizations and has lost his businesses, roles and reputation as a result of his actions.
Justice Nicole Redgate ultimately sided with the Crown, handing Lehman a 5-year sentence.
He was given 3 days credit for time spent in custody. I consider the gravity of the offense to be high, the judge said while delivering the decision. I consider Mr. Lehman's degree of responsibility to be high. Justice Redgate said Lehman exploited a position of trust for criminal purposes. The facts established that Mr. Lehman's conduct was calculated. He groomed, pushed boundaries, and emotionally manipulated the teen over a matter of months, adding that Lehman and the teen had intercourse at least every other week for several months. This was not an isolated or brief lapse in judgment. The judge said Lehman's actions caused the victim profound, multifaceted harm, impacting her mental health, work, and other relationships. Lehman also faces a DNA order and will be listed on the sex offender registry for 20 years. The judge noted Lehman is a first-time offender who pleaded guilty, though that happened not long before the matter was to go to a trial. But the judge says it does appear there is a reasonable prospect of rehabilitation for Lehman, and he has supportive friends and family.
New numbers show the PQ and the Liberals in a dead heat. According to Leger, the PQ has dropped slightly to 31% in overall support, while the Liberals are up 4 points to 30%.
All of a sudden, the race for the upcoming Quebec election has tightened significantly.
Sébastien Dallaire says the Liberal gains are likely due to three factors: the new leader bringing stability to the party, a strong Liberal brand in Ottawa, and concern about a possible third referendum.
The Liberals are the natural choice for a lot of voters who don't want a referendum.
On the sovereignty question, Leger found support has dropped to its lowest levels in almost 15 years. Just 29% of respondents say they would vote yes if a referendum was held today. For the PQ leader, the road to victory is looking less certain.
I think that he has to face new opponents and also a high level of international global uncertainty related to the trade war with the United States and other geopolitical factors.
Political analyst Danielle Bélan says Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon has already started to adjust. Last week, he said the referendum might have to wait until after Donald Trump leaves office, and on Tuesday he admitted the war in Iran might impact support. But Bélan doubts the PQ is ready to backtrack completely.
It will upset their base, right, which is an important concern for Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, but also it might not sound really credible for many Quebecers.
According to the aggregator site 338canada.com, the PQ is still in a strong position to form government. Dallaire says for the Liberals to start challenging, the party needs to start making gains among Francophone voters.
They're at 19%. If they can reach 22, 23, 24, then you would be talking about significant seat gains.
There's also the small matter of the CAQ leadership campaign. The winner will become premier, and both experts agree that, too, could play a major role in shaking up the campaign. Matt Gilmore, CTV News.
Every year, Fire Services makes a presentation to City Council reflecting on the previous year of recruitment. In a report to be presented next Tuesday, staff say a total of 229 applications were submitted, but many didn't move on because they didn't live in catchment areas supported by volunteer firefighters.
We have recently implemented a strategy where they can type in their address and it will show them on the city website which is their closest volunteer station and if they're applicable to be able to apply to this. Some of the other ones is obviously physical testing, and then last is the interview stage.
Christian Labour Association of Canada represents over 200 volunteer firefighters in the city. The union says in order to best serve the vast geography, they'd like to see that number closer to 300. Unfortunately, year over year, they're seeing about 20% of volunteers leaving,
which is high. That's a lot of turnover. You're statistically losing replacing your service every 5 years, but realistically, what you're doing is just losing a few people for various reasons. Sometimes at the higher end years of service, but it's often the newer folks that might leave for various different reasons. And then having to replace those is very expensive and costly, and everyone else that's left behind, of course, has to carry the load.
Josh Corbett, known as half of the Pure Country Morning Show, has been a volunteer firefighter since 2023.
I think if you ask anyone in the service, it comes down to wanting to give back, wanting to help others, but do so in a way that's very frontline, boots on the ground. You know, you're able to put the work in rather than be more behind the scenes.
Walchuk says that the union and the city are working collaboratively to address recruitment and retention. He says he remains hopeful with upcoming open houses and presentations at local high schools that people will see the opportunity and become volunteer firefighters. Lindsay Alick, CTV News, Sudbury.
Within an hour of the school day starting, dozens of students walked out of class at Kennedy and Brennan high schools, marching to the constituency office of MPP Andrew Dowie to protest changes to the Ontario Student Assistance Program.
People need this funding to be able to continue their programs. These are people who are going to be our doctors, our educators.
As a community and a school, we find that very unhelpful, especially with low-income families in our school. We need to stand up to that.
Brennan students arrived about 30 minutes before their peers from Kennedy, but once both groups got there, it didn't take long before some students entered the MPP's office to engage directly with Andrew Dowie.
I had a student debt when I finished school.
And how long did it take for you to pay it off?
It took me probably a couple months because I went to work.
Under the changes, the maximum share of OSAP aid students can receive as grants is dropping from 85 down to 25%, meaning a larger portion of that aid will now come in the form of loans that must be repaid. But Dowie says the changes are happening now to keep OSAP sustainable after the federal government stopped funding student aid for private career colleges.
That means Ontario is the only funder for student assistance for Trios, for Canadian College, and the other private colleges, Anderson College. Like, we have, that's what changed, and the federal government's decision caused real harm for student assistance in our province.
OSAP is funded by both the federal and provincial governments, but the changes in grant funding will only affect the provincial portion, which makes up about 40% of the total aid students receive.
Student loans are very expensive, and they are.
Student loans are prime plus one. That's not an expensive. It's not expensive. If you don't get into the workforce, then yeah, you're delaying your repayment.
You have to pay groceries. If you have a child, you're a mother that gets pregnant.
Yeah.
So it does take decades to pay it off. That's what I'm saying. Because it does.
It depends on your life choices. If you want to go to school again, you can. You have that ability. There are life choices involved.
Sanjay Maru, CTV News.
For years, Winnipeg parent Ian Walker has been pushing for the city to lower residential speed limits.
I feel worried every time my kids go out the door to walk or bike to school.
Now his calls may be one step closer to reality. Winnipeg's Public Service is recommending the city ask the province to amend its Highway Traffic Act. This would allow Winnipeg to drop its default speed limit on residential streets.
Ultimately, what will happen is it will come down to a vote at council. 40 remain the same, or 30.
The Public Service recommends a drop to 40 clicks, down from 50, noting this could be implemented quickly, requiring fewer signs while still keeping a distinction from school zone areas. It pointed to a recent study out of Edmonton that found a drop to 40 led to a 25% reduction in overall collisions. On Wednesday at the Public Works Committee meeting, dozens of residents of all ages weighed in.
Cars were zooming by us so fast. It's really scary when cars do that.
Some opposed the idea.
If you drive 40, you're getting passed and saluted frequently. I've tried it. It's going to create road rage and unsafe issues.
While others felt the city should go further.
This process should be expedited by presenting a city bylaw to decrease all residential streets to 30 kilometers an hour immediately.
Public Works Chair Councillor Janice Lukes says she supports a drop to 40 kilometers per hour.
It takes 18 seconds more to go 40 versus 50. This is only in residential neighborhoods, not the collectors, not the primary, not the priority ones, just the residentials.
A city report notes even with the province's approval, it could take a year to implement this. But Walker is hopeful it will happen eventually.
I suspect that a couple of years from now, people are going to be wondering why it took us so long to do it.
Now, Public Works has yet to vote on this. That meeting is actually still ongoing right now. The committee just wrapped up delegations on this and other items on the agenda around 4:30 this afternoon.
It was like a scene from a movie. Last July, a high-speed police chase ripped through Saskatoon, ending with a work truck being driven off the road. The driver, 33-year-old Kaz Daniel, pleaded guilty to several charges, including robbery, dangerous driving while impaired, and aggravated assault of a police officer. He has now been handed a 5-year prison sentence. According to Saskatoon police, the crime spree began on the morning of July 9, when Daniel robbed a convenience store, attacking employees employees with bear spray and stealing money from the cash register. Police said he then assaulted a taxi driver and drove a cab into the store before fleeing the scene. About an hour later, at Wiggins Avenue and Cascade Street, he stole a truck while sewer work was being done in the area. Daniel sped through downtown and residential neighborhoods during morning rush hour. In the more than half-hour pursuit, he rammed 2 police vehicles and 2 officers fired their guns at the truck. Daniel was eventually forced off the road by police on Circle Drive near Valley Road. With credit for time served, Daniel has about 4 years left to serve, and he'll be prohibited from driving for 5 years after he's released. Stacey Hine, CTV News, Saskatoon.
On day 3 of the double murder trial of Dylan Whitehawk, jurors learned some of the details surrounding the death of Keenan Toto. Whitehawk is facing 2 first-degree murder charges in the deaths of Toto and Jordan Denton back in 2019. A witness who cannot be identified due to a publication ban said they were with Toto in the early morning of December 1st, saying the pair was drinking at a home on Dewdney Avenue and decided to walk to a convenience store on Pasqua Street. At 3 a.m., the two were walking on the 1200 block of Queen Street when a car pulled up. The witness testifying Toto walked near the vehicle when he was shot by someone inside, adding Toto fell to the ground while the car in question drove off. Video footage from a home on the street was played in court showing the shooting. 911 calls made by people living on the block who heard the gunshot were also present in court. These callers also shared their testimonies about what they witnessed. The owner of the vehicle used in the crime also took the stand, saying the car was stolen the same night of the shooting and they were not involved. One witness was emotional, testifying Toto was like his best friend, and on the night of the shooting there were no signs that danger was near. The trial continues here at Court of King's Bench on Thursday. Mick Favel, CTV News, Regina.
Police tape remained Tuesday night outside the Genesis Center after a fight broke out between a group of people and an individual in a car.
The driver exited the vehicle and fired rounds towards the group, striking one male in his 20s.
His friends took him to Peter Lougheed Hospital in serious condition. Police are investigating the incident but have no suspects yet. This all taking place around 10 p.m., worrying for nearby residents.
I'm completely shocked. I would not imagine something like this happening in such a place.
If it's happening, then it's concerning, right?
That concern only heightened by what happened less than 8 hours later. Just before 5:30 a.m. Wednesday, officers were called to a home in the 200 block of Martindale Boulevard Northeast after shots were fired. The front of the home is riddled with bullet holes, and at least half a dozen bullet casings were on the ground, approximately a 5-minute drive from where the first incident took place. Yet,
we don't have any information to say that either of the 2 incidents were related.
Nobody was hurt, but CPS doesn't have any suspects. Police say the incidents aren't gang-related or connected to other high-profile crimes plaguing Northeast communities.
It looks like it's 2 separate incidents that are not extortion-related.
But it doesn't ease concerns in the area.
I think it's pretty scary.
I feel like we are in like a city or country that this shouldn't really be an issue. It's very concerning to live in this area now.
And Tyler joins us now. So Tyler, what are police saying about the current level of gun violence in our city?
Tara, so far this year, police have responded to a total of 20 shootings. 6 are confirmed to be related to extortion crimes. For context, last year by this time, CPS had only responded to a total of 7 shootings. Now, the Genesis Center and the YMCA here say they are assessing the incident that took place last night and continuing to monitor and look at safety protocols.